Hey guys, what's up? Thank you so much for joining me again. So I'm really excited to be here today. I am going to be making one of my most favorite recipes to make. This is something that I've been making for about 15 years now. It is a kale and sausage soup. It's really, really yummy. It's got butter in it, it's got cream in it, it's super decadent, and it's just something that every single person that's ever tried it just really, really loves it. So I'm very excited to share this recipe with you guys today. Thank you so much for subscribing to the channel. Please share the recipe with other people and tell other people about the channel. Give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Go ahead and get in the kitchen and let's get this soup going. Alrighty guys, so for this recipe I'm going to be using 1 pound of Italian style turkey sausage, 1 teaspoon each garlic pepper, salt, sage, parsley, thyme, and oregano, half a teaspoon each onion powder, garlic powder, and black pepper, 1 tablespoon of olive oil. I'm going to use half of this, so 4 tablespoons of butter, 1 whole yellow onion, 1 shallot, 5 cloves of garlic, 2 tablespoons of chicken bouillon, 6 red skin potatoes, and 1 to 2 bunches of kale. You guys can use however much kale you want, and 1 cup of heavy cream. So I'm just going to put my turkey in the bowl and I'm going to add all of my seasonings to it. Now, a lot of people don't really like ground turkey. If you guys want to use Italian sausage, that's totally up to you. I don't prefer to use Italian sausage in this recipe. I don't like the nitty-gritty things that are in sausage, and so I've always made this with turkey sausage, and it is kind of a different type of meat texture, but you guys are going to see in a second. It browns up perfectly and it looks exactly like regular sausage, and it tastes fine. Nobody's ever called me out on this and asked me if it's turkey before, so it is going to release a lot of liquid. You guys are going to just want to let this cook until all of that liquid is reabsorbed back into the meat. And it's okay if it gets a little bit brown on the outside. You just want to chop it up into nice small pieces. Just break it down. You really do have to work with it because it is going to stay in a big clump if you don't take your time and cut it down into nice pieces. So we're just going to set that aside, and I'm going to go ahead and cut my onion. So you just want to cut it in half. Cut the ends off. Get the paper off the outside. And same thing with the other half. We just want to use this whole onion. This is 1 medium-sized yellow onion. And then you guys can cut this however big you want. Just kind of depending on the strips that you cut here is going to sort of determine how big your pieces end up. So I would say about 1/4 inch here works perfectly for this soup. So you just want to cut it into slices. And since onions are layered, it's already kind of cut for you there. So all you have to do is turn it and go through the other way. And then you're going to have a nice medium dice onion here. And we're just going to set that aside and work on the shallot. So the same thing, you just want to cut the ends off. Shallots are a part of the onion family, but a lot of people say they taste like a cross between an onion and garlic. I like them a lot for anything that you're using, like a cream, any type of a cream-based soup or sauce. They work really well. So they're really tiny. They're layered exactly like onions, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut it lengthwise into a few pieces. And this is just going to help me to mince this into nice small pieces. So I'm just going to cut it again into strips lengthwise. And if you guys have never worked with shallots, they are usually near wherever the garlic is, which is, in my store anyway, is usually by the avocados and tomatoes and things like that. The shallots are going to be right near there. So they're not usually near the onions themselves. So you can see that cutting it that way has created a nice mince for me, so I don't have to work with it too much here. And again, this is just up to you, however big you guys want your pieces of veggies inside your soup. It's totally up to you. So I went ahead and added my olive oil and my butter into my pot. And now I'm just adding in the shallots and the onion. And you do want to season as you go. Whenever you are building a recipe, you want to think about, you want to build a strong foundation. So you want to try to season immediately the first. And normally recipes will start with onions, garlic, things like that. So you want to go ahead and just add a little sprinkling of salt. I really like to use kosher salt. I feel like it's easier to control than an iodized salt. And I really like fresh cracked pepper. Anytime you guys can use fresh cracked pepper, that's going to give you a better flavor as well. So maybe invest in a pepper grinder. It's also fun to do. So I'm just going to crush my garlic here with my knife. If you guys don't work with fresh garlic, that's totally fine. You can use the garlic paste or the pre-minced garlic in the grocery store. Garlic is super sticky, so you just want to give it a good crush, give it a good whack, and the skins should fall off pretty easily for you like they are right here. And I'm just going to cut this into pieces, not too small, not too worried about it. Just keep running your knife back and forth through it, and the more you go, the smaller it's going to get. Looks good to me. Add that into the shallots and onions. Just mix that around. And then I am going to go ahead and just add our turkey sausage back into this. You can see all the liquid has been absorbed, so it looks great. There's a lot of flavor in this sausage, you guys. You don't want to get rid of that liquid because all of those spices that you added into that are going to go with it. So just be patient with it and just let that reabsorb back into there. And I suppose if you wanted to, you could just cook this all into the same pot, but I like to do it this way. Soup is kind of one of those things that it's a one pot stop, so you don't really have to worry about getting a bunch of dishes dirty and stuff. So I'm just cutting the pieces off of the potato that have little hairs and things coming out of them. Whenever you're cutting potatoes, if you cut a tiny piece off of one side and create a flat side, it makes them a lot easier to cut because they're not rolling around and stuff like that. And I want to keep the skins on these, so you just want to clean up the outside of the potatoes just a bit. And I'm going to go ahead and just cut these into nice bite-sized pieces. Red skin potatoes are a softer potato, a softer flesh, so be really careful that you don't overcook these or they will just turn to mush. So I'm just adding 6 cups of water. And then I'm going to add in my chicken bouillon. And I'm sorry, I added 8 cups of water to this. You want to go ahead and test it. It is going to taste slightly salty here, but remember that the potatoes are not salted yet and the kale is not salted yet, and then we're also going to add the cream to this at the end. And so if it is a little bit salty, that's actually a good thing because you want the potatoes, all of that seasoning is going to get into the potatoes, and then it's just going to balance out after it's all cooked. So we just want to get all of our potatoes in there. This is going to drop the temperature down. You want to bring this back to a boil, and then you want to turn it down to medium and just softly boil this. And then I'm going to go ahead and get started on my kale while those potatoes are boiling. You do want to let the potatoes go for about 10 minutes to 12 minutes before you add the kale. And I'm just going to pull this off with my hand. So if you don't work with kale a lot, you can use the rib, but you want to break it off right around there. So whenever the rib is nice, it starts to get thick and stays that same thickness, you don't really want to cook that because we are not going to cook this long enough for that part to soften up. And so it's just not going to taste that good. It's not going to have a good texture. You guys, I used 2 bunches of kale in this soup today because my family the kale is their favorite part. And so we always run out of kale. By the end of the soup, there's just no kale left. So I thought, well, I'm going to go ahead and add in 2 full bunches today, but 1 bunch works just fine as well if you guys don't want to do that. You'll see at the end that the soup is absolutely loaded up with kale. So once you get it all pulled off, you just want to run your knife through one way and then the other. And this is just going to create nice bite-sized pieces. And then after you get the kale chopped up, you do want to go ahead and wash it. Wash it really, really good. Kale has a very waxy, powdery looking outside. I don't know what they put on it, but there is something on it that is, you definitely want to try to get as much of that off. And you always want to wash your veggies and your produce before eating it. You just never know what kind of stuff is going to be in there. So again, give it a nice chop. Run the knife back through the other way. And kale is a very sturdy green. It holds up really well to this type of cooking. So you can see I got it all nice and washed. It looks really good. And I do have quite a bit of kale here. There's chopped kale that you can buy in bags. You guys could use that as well. But for me, I always like to go with the cheaper option. And I don't know, cooking is very soothing to me. It's very relaxing, and I don't mind having to chop things up. So I don't mind doing it this way. So you can see that my kale there's a lot of kale in there. So I am going to add more liquid to this. If you only added 1 bunch of kale, you should be totally fine here. But because I added that second bunch, I am going to go ahead and have to add more liquid. And if you do add more liquid, just taste it for seasoning. If you need to add a little bit more seasoning, salt, or maybe the chicken bouillon, you'll know. And then we're just going to bring this back up to a boil and let it cook for about 5 to 8 minutes, or just until that kale is cooked through. The kale is going to be a nice bright green. It's not going to look dull. So if you don't let it cook so long that it gets dull. And you guys can see there's just mass amounts of kale in this thing. It's just loaded. And just stir it up, and at this point it's all done. So the only thing left to do is to add in that heavy cream. You guys could definitely use half and half or even milk at this point, but the heavy cream is definitely going to give it the best flavor. So just turn the heat off and then pour that cream in. And then you're going to just see it just completely come together and turn into the soup that you might have already eaten before in other places. They do serve this soup in different restaurants and stuff, but it probably doesn't have as much kale as this one does. So making your food homemade, that's one of the best things, is you get to control not only the quality of the ingredients, but how much is in each thing, how much salt is in each thing, what type of salt is in the dish. That's a big thing. So there you go, sausage and kale soup. And I'm just going to serve it with a piece of bread and butter. All right, you guys, so there it is. That is my famous sausage and kale soup that I have been making for a very, very long time. I hope you guys like it. I just went ahead and served it with this piece of French bread, and it's super simple. I can tell that the potatoes are not overcooked at all. They look perfect. They're not falling apart, and so they're going to be really nice and soft when you go to eat them. And the kale as well, it's just really tender, and it's not too soft, and it's not too hard, and it's really just perfect. So I hope you guys enjoy. Thanks for watching.